Hello everyone. In this video, we will learn how to implement the Chase aggregate plan. A Chase strategy is one that adjusts production output to match demand fluctuations. It means that the production capacity and workforce are increased or decreased as needed, depending on the demand of the forecast. We have the data for a telephone company that employs workers who lay telephone cables and perform various other operations. Each worker puts in 600 hours of regular time per planning period and can work as many as 100 hours of overtime. The operations department has estimated the following workforce requirements for such services over the subsequent 4 planning periods. The company pays regular time wages of $6,000 per employee per period for any time worked up to 600 hours. That includes undertime. The overtime pay rate is $15 per hour over 600 hours. Hiring, training, and outfitting a new employee costs $8,000. Layoff costs are $2,000 per employee. Currently, there are 40 employees that work for the company. No delays in the service or back orders are allowed. Now you are required to prepare a chase strategy using only hirings and layoffs. Also, report the total number of employee hirings and layoffs during the planning period. Now, to convert the demand requirement into employee period equivalents, we divide the demand in hours by 600. For example, the demand of 21,000 hours in period 1 translates into 35 employees when we divide that demand by 600 hours. Similarly, we calculate the demand for period 2, 3, and 4 using the same approach. This is the updated table that we have in terms of demand converted into number of hours. Next, we calculate the total cost of period 1 using the chase strategy. Remember that in chase strategy, we rely on hirings and layoffs. The forecasted demand for period 1 is 35 workers. We set the workforce level at 35. There will be no undertime. There will be no overtime. And we will utilize the time for 35 workers. There will be no hiring for period 1. Since we have 40 employees in the workforce, there will be 5 layoffs. The cost calculations for period 1 include the utilized time cost for 35 workers. There will be no undertime cost. There will be no overtime cost. The hiring cost will be 0 for period 1. Since there were 5 layoffs, so we will have a layoff cost of $10,000. The total cost for period 1 will be equal to the utilized time cost plus hiring cost plus layoff cost. Adding up all these costs, we have a total of $220,000 for period 1. Next, we calculate the total cost of period 2 using the chase strategy. The forecasted demand for period 2 is 30 workers. We set the workforce level at 30. There will be no undertime and there will be no overtime. We will utilize the time of 30 workers. There will be no hiring in period 2. Since we have 35 employees in the workforce from period 1, there will be 5 layoffs to meet the demand of 30 workers for period 2. The cost calculation for period 2 include the utilized time cost of 30 workers. The hiring cost will be 0 for time period 2. Since there were 5 layoffs, the layoff cost will be $10,000 and there will be no undertime cost and no overtime cost. The total cost for period 2 will be equal to the sum of utilized time cost, hiring cost, and layoff cost. Adding up all these costs, we have a total of $190,000 for period 2. For period 3, the forecasted demand is 50 workers. We set the workforce level at 50. There will be no undertime and no overtime. We will utilize the time of 50 workers. It means that we will hire 20 workers in time period 3 since we have 30 employees from time period 2, and there will be no layoffs in time period 3. The cost calculation for time period 3 include the utilized time cost of 50 workers, the hiring cost of 20 workers, which will be $160,000 for time period 3. The layoff cost will be 0 since we did not lay off any worker. There will be no undertime cost and no overtime cost. The total cost for period 3 will be equal to the sum of utilized time cost, hiring cost, and layoff cost. Adding up all these costs, we have a total of $460,000 for time period 3. For period 4, we have the forecasted demand, that is 20 workers. We set the workforce level at 20. There will be no undertime and no overtime. We will utilize the time of 20 workers. We will hire no workers in time period 4. Since we have 50 employees in the workforce from period 3, so there will be 30 layoffs in time period 4. The cost calculation for time period 4 include the utilized time cost of 20 workers. The hiring cost will be 0 for time period 4. The layoff cost of 30 workers will be equal to $60,000, and there will be no undertime cost and no overtime cost. The total cost for period 4 will be equal to the sum of utilized time cost, hiring cost, layoff cost. So in that case, the total cost will be equal to $180,000 for time period 4. Here we have the summary of the cost of implementing the chase strategy. Remember that the chase strategy only relies on hirings and layoffs. The total number of hires was 20 and the total layoffs in 4 planning period were equal to 40. The cost of fulfilling the demand of 4 periods using the chase strategy is around 1.05 million US dollars. And this is how we calculate the cost of the chase strategy using hiring and layoffs. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.